Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at a nice monster out of the Monster Manual, the original from 1977. This is going to be the Lich. Ooh, scary. One of the most fearsome monsters in the Monster Manual. The Lich has had a lot more written about it since this book came out, not the least of which is the Demi-Lich appearing in Tomb of Horrors, a Sararak. Um, I'm not going to go too much into the Demi-Lich. I'm going to stay just with the Lich today. The Demi-Lich always left me kind of underwhelmed, unfortunately. It could have been really phenomenal, but having dealt with the Lich and then you deal with the Demi-Lich, it's kind of a step down in my opinion. But also, I want to talk about subscribing. Please do. Channel's growing good, but it's slowed a little bit. I'm not sure why. Let's keep this channel growing so I can keep doing these videos. Same with Patreon. If there's anything you could do to help out on Patreon, that'd be great. I'm going to put up a free poll there probably this week. Just some questions about what other game systems you might want to see on the channel. It'd be free. Just go ahead and give your opinion and let me know. But that's it. End of commercial. Back to the important stuff. The Lich from the Monster Manual. Today on page 121. The Lich. A scary monster if ever there was one. One of the most powerful undead out there. And one of the only undead that you voluntarily become. There are one or two others that arguably you become voluntarily, but the Lich, you definitely become voluntarily. So we're going to take a little look at this guy. I like the Lich a lot. There's a lot you can do with your story with the Lich. Dave Trampier artwork there. Lich, number appearing 1, armor class 0, 11 plus hit dice. Number of attacks 1 to 10. Special attacks see below, and then +1 or better weapon to hit. Standard intelligence, super genius. Neutral evil in the original write-up. Medium sized, and then psionic powers, see below. Yet there's not really anything listed for it. Interesting little typo from way back when. So the Lich itself, it exists because of its own desires and the use of powerful and arcane magic. The Lich passes from a state of humanity to non-human, non-living existence through force of will. It retains its status by certain conjurations, enchantments, and a phylactery. A Lich most often encountered within its hidden chambers, this lair typically being in a wilderness area of vast underground labyrinth, and is solidly constructed of stone and very dark. Though the power which changes the creature from human to, through the power that changes the creature from human to Lich, the armor class becomes the equivalent of +1 plate and +1 shield. It's AC 0. Similarly, hit dice are 8-sided, and the Lich can be affected only by magical attack forms by monsters with magical properties, 6 or more hit dice. So, pretty powerful. Liches were formerly ultra-powerful magic user or magic user clerics of not less than 18th level of magic use. Their touch is so cold as to cause 1 to 10 points of damage and paralyze opponents who fail their saving throw. The mere sight of a Lich will cause any creature below 5th level or 5 hit dice to flee in panic from fear. All Liches are able to use magic appropriate to the level they had attained prior to becoming non-human. So if you are 20th level MU and you become a Lich, you have 20th level MU capabilities. The following spells or attack forms have no effect on Liches: Charm, Sleep, Enfeeblement, Polymorph, Cold, Electricity, Insanity, or Death spells or symbols. And the description is, a Lich appears very much as does a wight or mummy, being of skeletal form, eye sockets mere black holes, with glowing points of light, and garments most often rotting, but most rich. Now, the write-up here is a little sparse for such a creature. The second edition D&D goes into a lot more detail, and it details exactly how a Lich becomes a Lich. Essentially, to become a Lich, a magic user has to find or create the formula that will cause him to pass from life to undeath. And then he has to gather all the parts for this and cast various spells and otherwise prepare for this. And then once he does, he drinks the potion, and then he basically rolls a system shock and see if he survives it. If he survives it, he comes back to unlife as a Lich. If he doesn't survive it, he's permanently dead. I don't allow anyone who fails at this to be resurrected or raised or anything like that. It's so destructive to the body. I let it just kind of just destroy the body. That's my own personal call. I've never had a player character try to become a Lich. I've had one or two guys talk about it, but it's never come to pass. The other important aspect of a Lich is their hit dice. They have to be at least 18th level magic user to have wanted to become a Lich, which means they've had 4 hit-sided hit dice up until 11th level, and then they've gone ahead and they've gotten 1 per point per level after that. I don't roll them that way. When you become a Lich, you get an 8-sider per level of magic use. So again, if I was a 20th level magic user, I would be throwing 28 siders for my hit points. Liches become very formidable. Also, with their cold touch, 1 to 10 points of damage, and then, of course, disabler's paralysis, or you're stuck there. So terrified are you of the Lich, and there's no immunity to this for elves or anything. So there's a lot to be afraid of with a Lich. Not the least of which is you're facing at least an 18th level magic user. But the interesting thing about the Lich for me has always been why they're a Lich. The psychology that made this individual go through all that, risking death and embracing undeath. Why? Why did they do it? What was their purpose? And it's fun to explore that. In a lot of ways, that's a fun way to really deal with your Lich character. One of the ways, of course, is that, or one of the reasons, is that the Lich just feels the world can't go on without him. He is so important to the world and loves himself so that he can't envision a world that goes on without his existence. Therefore, he makes sure, to the best of his ability, that it doesn't have to go on without him. He creates himself as an undead, and he's able to stay forever, ever and ever, thus not depriving the world of his genius. Another, Aslan is a good example of this. Aslan from the world of Greyhawk, by way of Ravenloft. Aslan is a Lich that ruled a kingdom in the Flayness who wanted to rule it forever. So he became a Lich to always stay in power until the day, of course, he was run out of power by all of his subjects revolting and causing him to flee. A large mist came up in front of him, and off he went through the mist, trying to flee the people pursuing him, and he ended up in Ravenloft. Aslan's a very interesting character. And then you have the Lich who wants to continue his research. This Lich is so focused on research, it doesn't matter to him whether he's alive doing it or he's an undead doing it, as long as he gets to continue his research. And maybe the research is trying to become a god. Maybe the Lich views this as one more step to becoming that creature. Arguably, this is Vecna's story. Vecna famously becomes a Lich, and a couple of reasons for Vecna. He wants revenge on the people of Greyhawk for various wrongs done him and his mother, but also there's a strong argument to say he's trying to eventually attain godhood, which he does from 3rd edition on. He does actually attain godhood. So those are a couple of reasons. One reason I did in my game was I did a pair of magic users, both lawful evil. I know it says neutral evil here, but it's been expanded many times, many places, to any evil. Well, this is a lawful pair of lovers, a man and a woman, both magic users, both 18th level, who had decided that their love should live forever. Their love, such as it was very selfish love, but is what they perceived to be an undying love. So they decided, yes, we will go enter into Lichhood together. So they went ahead and they crafted the potions necessary for both of them to attain Lichhood, and they quaffed them. And I threw a die for odd the man, even the woman, having the bad result. And I threw the dice, and it came up even. The woman succumbed to the potion and died. So here's this guy going on forever. He gets to live forever, but the reason he wanted to live forever is lying dead. So now his motivation becomes a way to bring her back to life and then help her attain Lichhood with him. That was a very interesting character I had in my campaign for a long, long time. He was around probably from about the mid-80s to probably the mid-90s. I don't think I ever even named him. He was just the Lich. But that was his motivation. And he would pop up now and again to be at cross purposes for the party that I was running that campaign for, just because they would run into his plan where he was trying to resurrect his mate, but he was unable to fulfill it because the player characters got there, or he wanted a rod of resurrection one of the players had in one game. So they were fending off his assault, trying to get the Rod of Resurrection, things like that. Made for a very dynamic villain. And like I said, I never named him, but I always felt he was more menacing for just being the Lich. And I know my players certainly felt menaced by him. And I eventually, that campaign just kind of wound down on its own. I never really brought his story to any kind of end. And because of that, I've always kind of had it in the back of my head that in my Greyhawk, this guy's still wandering around trying to find a way to bring his love back to life so he could have her become a Lich with him. So it's been an interesting thing, and it's something I've toyed with in the last 20, 25 years with bringing him back and maybe developing his backstory a little bit more. But I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that or not. But that was one of the more interesting ways that I've used a Lich. The formula for a Lich can be found in the Encyclopedia Magica. I think it's volume 3. Also, I think there's a Ravenloft on making a Lich that goes into the formula quite a bit. And it's kind of neat, and it can of itself become a story. So maybe the Lich, under false pretenses, hires the party to attain the various goods he needs to create the potion, or maybe the party's evil and they're working for this guy freely, not freely, but for hire, and he's using them to attain what he needs. And then one other use I have for Liches, of course, is in my Walpurgis game. That's the Halloween game I do every year, where I basically just take group of player characters and kill them. It doesn't count, but it's fun for me as the DM to kind of come up with different interesting ways to kill the players off, and the players enjoy the heck out of it. They like seeing their characters get creamed and knowing it doesn't count for anything. One of the years I put in a Lich who had been a wizard cleric, and this wizard cleric had the reverse of a heal spell, which is, of course, a harm spell. He cast harm, touched one of the players. I had the harm go off first. The player lost all but 1 to 4 hit points. He lost all but 1 hit point based on my touch. And then I threw the die 10 damage for his chill attack. And I rolled 10 on that, so I maxed on both spells. The player was down, and he was down at -9, and died before anybody was able to do anything to help him. It was one of my more favorite kills of Walpurgis, and I realized it's a complete chump play, but that's what Walpurgis is about, finding stuff in the books and then being a chump with them and having fun with it. So that's it. That's all I've got to say today about the Lich. Let me know some of your experiences with the Lich and why it's a great undead, and it's one of the rare undead that you willingly become. And that's all I've got for today, so thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Please leave any kind of comments or like the video, and I'll see you next time on page 121.